So hello everyone, and before I start, thank you Arnaud for switching the tracks today so that I can start earlier and make this happen. Thank you to Accenture for making this happen. Good, let's fill the next 20 minutes with some security insights about what Google is doing. And I also want to start this by saying where we are fundamentally different than our friends in Redmond, for instance. First of all, every company starts with a mission statement. And of course, our statement is to help organizations to transform. And that sounds very much like marketing, right? But it has a technical background. Every organization in the world has a different journey to the cloud. For some, it is just moving existing servers, existing virtual machines into a centralized public cloud, and that's the end of their cloud story. While other companies moving forward and actually transforming their applications into the cloud. So in a Google world, in a perfect Google world, and don't get me wrong, is we want to get rid of server operating systems and client operating systems from Redmond, right? Completely unnecessary. And the fundamental difference to Microsoft is we were born in the cloud. We have no on-premise hassle from the past that somehow needs to be moved into a cloud where you have to fix applications, and we just heard it in the previous presentations, which are vulnerable to attacks because these applications have never been designed for the internet or communication. So everything we do at Google is built in the cloud, resides in the cloud, communicates in the cloud. And this is not just one of the fundamental differentiators. We are at Google a true contributor to open source. Many technologies that we have is something we contributed, of course have it as our own technologies. One of our biggest innovations is Kubernetes, an innovation, an invention from Google, which we have as a product named Anthos, but given also to the public. And this is exactly what we're doing because we believe applications should reside in a secure place in the public cloud. And when it comes to security, we're even moving more forward there. Why should applications be in the cloud? In the past, organizations had problems for not having enough data. Today, organizations have problems because they have too much data. And the problem with the flood of data is simply having it done with algorithms, having it done with ML and AI, both vehicles that are helping to get insights from the flood of applications and data. But let's have a look into security. And we've heard a lot about this in a review last year. There were many attacks, of course, on platforms we cannot control, and that basically means it will never stop. The top vulnerability is not just about a lack of encryption or authentication, it is just that applications are vulnerable to these kind of attacks. And I believe for vendors like Google, for companies like Google, security is the biggest currency we have. This is why customers are trusting us. And imagine this, just 2 weeks ago, the largest ever measured DDoS attack in the world happened towards us. Google was able to defend the largest ever measured DDoS attack. 46 million requests in 10 seconds. That equals the global request that Wikipedia gets on a day in 10 seconds. We were able to fight this with technologies like Cloud Armor, for instance. And no one is capable of handling something like that. Another proof why it is so important that independently what you run in our cloud, that Google is the one who protects whatever you do. Let's get back maybe 10 years or so. That was actually when we started to rethink security. It was in a time when people still thought that VPNs are secure enough. How ridiculous, right? Where people thought having a firewall will do the job and we're done. And we all know that is not enough anymore. And after all these exploits, after all these things that happened, we thought at Google, we have to rethink things. And that was back in 2009. And we believed that we need a different type of access model, a different kind of belief in security. And we thought we have to get rid of this castle approach. Have everything in a location and a firewall before it, and we actually make sure that we defend anything from the inside out. That definitely is not working anymore. Not in such a distributed world where people want to work from anywhere, from any device at any time. So what Google came up with, and what many people do not know, is with zero trust. It's even mentioned on Wikipedia. Zero trust is an innovation from Google. Google was the first company in the world ever rolling out a zero trust model with a product that we call Beyond Corp, for instance. And why is zero trust so important? Because we want to make sure that we only let those access who have the right to access. And what changed to this VPN world with a little token and multi-factor authentication? It's not just enough who you are and what you're entitled to do. I would like to know if you here from Lithuania traveling to South Korea, accessing your corporate environment, we still want to know if it's you and not someone else with your identity, because usually you never are in South Korea, aren't you, right? So if we get a request with your logon from South Korea, then tell us again that you are the person you pretend you are. So based on your travel profile, based on who you are, based on the device, based on the ability that the device has, we want to make sure that you only get access over connections to those resources that we believe are safe. That, in a nutshell, is the idea of zero trust. And we at Google are the pioneers of zero trust. We are the ones who made it first in the world, and then the rest somehow followed. And this is exactly what it is all about. It's not just about identity. It's about checking any time, regardless who you are and regardless what you access, that you have to prove that, and when we determine on what you can do or not. And that's very important. Well, maybe some of you now think like, yeah, you know what, that guy from Google is just talking about like our environment on Google, right? Yeah, but as we always say, eat your own dog food. So that means the Google infrastructure on which we Googlers, as we are named, working on every day is the same infrastructure that our customers are working on. So it's virtually the same data centers all across the globe that we are having. And that also means that accuracy in blocking spam in business is actually something that we do for our entire scope of customers. And that also means that any type of encryption, perception, spam, emails delivered are closely monitored at any time. Google is having two different worlds of services that we are giving to you. One is Google Workspace. That is the true way to send emails with Gmail, to work with docs, to work with spreadsheets, and to work with slides, right? If you want to go to the museum, just look under O with O365, right? So why is that? First of all, again, it's all in one browser. And working with Google means you're working differently. When I started my IT career 25 years ago, of course, I started it with Microsoft, right? Good in the past old times. And I always remember that people were yelling at me saying, how could you send that attachment with 50 megabytes to all Munich, right? Like having hundreds of people having this bloody extension, excuse my French, in their inbox. This is something that we do fundamentally different. At Google, we share. If I send you a presentation, I'm sending you the link to that presentation. I'm determining what you can do with it, but technically it resides with me. I'm giving access to people. So that means it's a different way of distributing information, avoiding traffic, avoiding all the hassle. And with that comes security, of course. And this is actually one of the official reports that all of the 3 hyperscalers have to issue. And as a result from that, when we are monitoring and reducing traffic, which is also part of the security, we are able to clearly make the difference. Because our technology was made for the cloud, and we own the cloud and our data centers when it comes to security. And honestly, the presentation right before me was perfect because it was showing what happens if you're using local infrastructures or if these applications are not made for security. So that's actually what we do, and actually we are making the difference when it comes to this. Some more about security and how we handle security? Quite easy. Let's take this. Another way to reduce potential attackers is to make sure that the access to data is not given. And we are not talking about our data centers as such. Google has a global network. In other words, we have our own internet, the Google internet, which is not the public internet. So that means all of our data centers across the world are linked by C-Link cables and other types to make sure you always have the best performance wherever you access, and secondly, making sure that we control those lines. Having less exposure and having less potential threats to the way how data is communicating between Europe and all across the globe. Another way of handling security to reduce these kind of lags. But that's still not everything. If you really want to see a fast operating system, you better don't use Windows. We believe Chrome OS is the fastest and the best, right? Everyone who used that knows that after 1 year, Jesus Christ, you can pick up 2 coffees until you get the disk off your Windows desktop. Or you buy some little nice tools to somehow fix it, but we all know these tools never really fix it. However, we believe that we only need one thing. And the most unique client we have is the Chrome browser. That's the one size fits all that lets you access all kinds of applications through your browser, because that's the only true operating system you need. Another innovation when it comes to security is the fact that not like anyone else, we are encrypting data while it's actually in transit. One of the best innovations we have made lately with the Chrome browser is that we make sure that the data is also encrypted at rest when you work offline with Google Workspace or other services that we have. So we are making sure that we really, really span from the device where the user sits, encrypted on the device, encrypted in transit, secured and encrypted in our data centers. We are making sure that this is a very secure environment that is really an end-to-end solution. And this is not just it. Many of you, of course, have still PCs, hardware, locally there, which is on Windows. That's okay. What we are offering is something which is called Google Flex OS, Chrome Flex OS. It's the ability to turn your existing hardware into a Chrome OS device without any friction, using and extending the life cycle of existing devices and actually making sure that you can use it for the moment until you make a different choice. And that's where we offer as well fundamental security from the device signed on. And of course, it is not just us seeing it like that. That's another reason why the United States, but also many other governments around the world are following our approach about security best practices as we speak. But let me tell you one more thing that we are offering. There are still customers who say, and I accept that, saying, yeah, but it would somehow be good if we could at least keep a portion of our data center for whatever reason on site. I mean, like with your data center. And Google was taking this serious, and I think we just simply did it better than our competitors who tried and failed. So what we are doing together with T-Systems, a subsidiary of Deutsche Telekom, but also as a standalone product, is something that we launched under the name sovereign cloud. And the sovereign cloud is actually a combination of giving you the full stack of services and capability that Google offers, but under your control, meaning not the evil Americans, right? And we all know they are somehow evil, at least in the movies, right? So, how does this all work? So Google is actually presenting 3 flavors of this kind of sovereign cloud approach. Sovereign controls, supervised cloud, and hosted cloud. What does that actually mean? Let's start from the left. And everyone has maybe different expectations when it comes to sovereignty. The left one is actually the entry model of it. That means all your apps, all your data still resides with the Google public cloud, but under the supervision of the so-called sovereign controls from T-Systems. So that's just one way of saying we keep it in the Google cloud because it's secure and safe, but we have a separate instance that Google cannot influence, who is actually measuring where the traffic goes, what happens, who does what. It's like a permanent auditing where we don't have access, but the customer. The second model is exactly like the first one, but as you can see, as a distributed cloud. GDCH, Google Distributed Cloud Hosted, is actually the approach of having the Google data center, yes, you heard me right, the full stack of what we offer, on site with you. And still having it monitored by T-Systems. In this specific case, as I already said, we have an offering with T-Systems, but also Google has an own offering about that. So that is actually a second level, a second choice, a second option of sovereignty about data and application residing 100% at the customer on your premises, period. But what happens if someone says, still not enough? I don't even trust myself. Then we just go to this one here, which will soon be available. We actually call this Google Supervised Cloud. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is nothing else than having the entire stack of Google, that means Workspace and GCP, residing with T-Systems, where we at Google don't even have access. And that is very important. Microsoft tried that a couple of years ago, and it didn't work. We make sure that the Google updates are on this platform as much as it is in our public cloud. So that means you're not versions behind if you choose that way. We treat the Google environment isolated with T-Systems exactly as our own public cloud that we run in the Google data center. So that means no difference in functionalities, security patches, etc. So actually this is a fully isolated public cloud with all the capabilities and mechanisms that we provide here today. I can read it in your eyes. You're super curious, right? You say like, skip lunch. I want to know more about Google Cloud. And you know what? I got something for you. The fastest growing Google partner here in the Baltics, TerraSky, is the partner where we are here with today. Our booth is right outside the galley, so stop by. My colleagues from sales and also the consultants from TerraSky will be there to discuss these topics further with you. Thank you very much for having me, and hopefully see you next time. Thank you very much.